All right, head coach Rob Talley heading into week 8, home tomorrow against LIU Post. Coach obviously coming off a huge win. I always hesitate to call biggest win in program history just because, it's week 7 at the time. So hopefully there's bigger wins here coming up for you guys. But I think signature wins the kind of the term I saw thrown out there. I think that's probably more appropriate for the win on Saturday.
Well, I think it definitely was. I mean, and I think you could say, to date that that was definitely probably one of the biggest wins we've had. It was great to be able to get that win in that type of environment. It was their homecoming. It was you had a real good sense. It was college football, really the way it should be. It was really a great atmosphere. I think they did a great job, providing that as an institution. And it was, the good and bad you take out of it is we didn't play our best game, and somehow we were able to come away with a win. And so we're really excited from that standpoint. Our kids have worked hard. Our seniors, have never beat a New Haven team. So I think that was important for them to be able to get a win for the program.
We talked about last year a little bit, but it's such a mirror of what happened here last year. Have you looked at that at all? And if you could have scripted how that win would have gone, could it have been scripted any better?
No, it was kind of scary to be sitting there with a few seconds left and them inside a 10-yard line again, and you definitely had flashbacks to the year before, and but I think our kids had great belief that we were going to be able to come out once we put ourselves in that situation, and down the stretch we were able to make a play. And that's what we always talk about, being in those moments and being able to make plays in those when you get those type of opportunities.
You guys go out back to back not only back to back on the road, but back to back to two traditional powers in the conference in Connecticut, come out with wins. Just talk about that and how that's hopefully boosts you guys here heading into these last 3 games.
Well, I think the biggest thing with our kids, and I think the difference with this team than other teams, and every team's a little bit different, is that kind of stuff hasn't affected them. The drive down the day of to New Haven, getting up a little bit earlier to pregame meal, and that stuff hasn't affected them. You don't hear the grumblings, you don't hear the complaining that sometimes you hear. So I think that's the biggest thing with this team is they've been able to all the distractions, put them aside and really play the game of football, which I think that's a big part of winning on the road. Is being able to just focus on what you can do and not the things that you can't affect.
You guys have had 3 comeback wins, all of them on the road. You talk about a team identity. 7 games into this, obviously this team has an identity. What is that identity to you for this team?
Well, I think it is just that we're not going to give up. We're not going to quit. That we believe in each other. I think the offense believes in the defense believes in the offense, and we believe in what we're doing on special teams. So, and we talked about that belief early on in camp, and if you need that belief in order to win football games. So we definitely have that. The thing we don't necessarily like because we don't necessarily like putting ourselves in those situations and having to come back. But it's really good to see that kids, where I think in some ways in the past it's, when you're not used to winning those games, then you start finding ways to lose them as opposed to finding ways to win them.
You guys lead the conference, fewest penalties called against you guys this year, top 15 in the country. How big of a factor is that for you guys? You're not shooting yourself in the foot here, with stupid penalties for the most part.
Well, I think that's big. I mean, I think we talk about being a disciplined team, and to me, that's what that comes down to is being a disciplined team. So our kids have really been able to carry it over to the field, and if we're not hurting ourselves, then we give ourselves a chance, And to me, the games that we've struggled at this year is when we've gotten officials way too involved, and that's really come back to beat us up a little bit. So we're still gonna keep on trying to play well. We want to be aggressive, but we have to limit the penalties as much as we can.
What's the approach to the team? You want to be aggressive, you want to be physical, all that stuff, tough. But there's a line there where you can't cross. How do you teach that to the guys, and what's the message to them?
I think it's our kids being smart, first and foremost, and knowing you can do what you can't do, and just playing hard from whistle to whistle. And I'll never get on one of my guys, for giving me that effort, from whistle to whistle. So we just talk about that. But to me, it's more the procedural stuff, and that's the stuff that we practice. We practice day, every day. So that's the kind of stuff we can't do. We can't have the offsides. We can't we can't have those unforced errors, because to me, you're going to have the holdings, you're going to have the pass interference calls. That type of stuff is going to happen, but you can't hurt yourself by, the snap count and you go off sides. You can't do that.
Remarkable that you guys are doing that penalty-wise, and you pointed out to me the other day when we were going to Boston how many young kids you only have. A handful of seniors and juniors on this, starting every day. So many freshmen and sophomores are in there. Just talk about how they've adapted, and they're not hurting you.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing we told freshmen is like, okay, you're kind of a freshman during training camp, and once you get an opportunity to help us, you get an opportunity to be on the field, you're no longer a freshman. And I think it says something about them from a maturity standpoint. I think we were very fortunate to be able to recruit some very mature individuals that I think have played a lot in high school and were used to having some success. So now when you come to college, they're put in that situation. It's nothing different. So, obviously I think that high school coaches have done a good job too in preparing them to get to this level. So it's whoever's on the field. It doesn't matter what grade you are. You're expected to carry your load and do your job.
A couple of guys had big games on Saturday. First on the offense, Colin Marcus stepped in for Jamal Johnson, who was down with an injury. Talk about his game, and a team that gives up maybe like 110 yards per game. He has 172 and almost double per play what they give up on the ground.
Well, I think a couple of things. I think the first thing about Colin is, he's a guy that had an injury during camp, and because he would have been right there in the mix, and he would have gotten probably a lot more carries early in the season. But he was hurt for the first couple of games. So he's a back. He just understands the game of football, has real good feel, has great vision, and is able to make the necessary cuts. And I think our offensive line did a great job. He had some holes he was running through where, it was just him and the safety, that he had to beat. So, so we're really happy about his production. We're not necessarily that surprised, given the opportunity that he'd be able to have a game like that.
On the defensive side, Sterry Codrington, Defensive Player of the Week in the conference. Master's career high in tackles, and certainly had a number of big plays, two block kicks, and a big sack on their fake field goal. Talk about his game and just how he's developed now as a junior.
Yeah. Well, he's probably easily been our most consistent, player on defense. Where he's steady there, plays a bunch of different positions on the back end for us. Really smart football player. Understands the game, and I think that's why he has the success he has. And you're kind of just waiting for him to have a breakout game like he had the other day. But he definitely understands the game of football and puts himself in great position to make plays.
Moving ahead this week, CW Post back in the conference this year. What have you seen from them? They spent a number of years in the Pennsylvania conference. They seem to have maybe a little bit of that identity still, and just talk about the game tomorrow.
Well, the biggest thing is you see them if you looked at them on film without looking at their record. There's no way you would know their record. Where they play hard on both sides of the football. We had a lot of carry watching film of them early in the year. They were playing opponents we were playing, so you get to see them offensively, defensively. They have a quarterback that's a dual threat kid that can make stuff happen with his arm and his legs, and they have so many athletes on the field. At every position, and then defensively, they're a team they're not giving up a whole bunch of yards on the ground. I think they just play really aggressively. And so we're gonna have our hands full. We're gonna have to play lights out, and I don't think we can play as well as we did last week, and necessarily expect to win. We definitely have to play better in all three phases.
I think one thing maybe this team, and I'm sure you've gone over with you guys, is I think maybe this week, maybe certainly to some extent the AIC game, but you guys are starting to get a little bit of a target on your back, and you're going to start to see these teams come in here wanting to knock you guys off. Kind of like you guys have been in the past. What's the approach in dealing with that, like with the Post team coming in here, fully capable of coming in here and playing well?
Well, to me, our biggest thing is, we always say it doesn't matter who we're playing. It's just, who's next on the schedule, and that's who we're playing. And we can't control what necessarily they're going to do. We have to control what we're going to do. And that's really our focus is, trying to put together a great game plan and then just have our kids execute it, So that's our focus. Emotionally, physically, those type of things, we need to have it right from the start. But we can't wait till the second half to start playing football, because once again, we'll find ourselves in a hole. So our kids will, I believe they'll be ready. they realize, as I said, you look at the film, you look at Post, and they have some really good football players and doing some really good things. So, we know they're going to give us their best shot, and that's what we feel like we've gotten the whole year. So it's not going to change at this point.
Coming back home, obviously on the road for 2 straight weeks. Talk about that now. Getting back here, a little bit of buzz on campus now. As teams, getting out there, and how nice it's going to be to have a couple home games here.
Well, basically, I talked about coming home. I told the team yesterday. The last time we were at home, we didn't play very well. So we need to kind of atone for that. That's a game where we had a bunch of penalties. That's a game, where we didn't play the type of football we're capable of. So to me, the biggest thing is coming back. Okay, we'll be able to sleep in our beds. We'll be able to get up and really set our normal schedule. Now we have to perform. So it's nice when you don't have to get on a bus. You don't have to worry about being in someone else's locker room. You don't have to worry about doing those type of things. But at the end, it comes down to performance. So. I think our parents are excited, our alumni are excited, and I think the students on campus are excited. And so we have an opportunity to show them our product live. So we need to take advantage of that.
Had a chance to sit down with Tim Bennett, one of these 3 captains. Been on the field since first game of the year as a freshman, and one of your leader guys, especially on defense. Talk about him and how he's developed, and he's a guy you can rely on in every game. He's out there as a starter as a safety.
Yeah. But I think the biggest thing with Tim has been the reliability factor. Just really a heady football player that can really get off the hash and has some great range. And been more and more physical against the run, this year than he's been in the past. So that's been a great plus for him. The consistency factor. So once again, a guy that's played in a bunch of games. So he's pretty much seen everything. And so he should be able to adjust to everything. And I think it helps to have the young kids around him. And we have Anthony Masucci, who's that sophomore safety starting opposite him. Really being able to see what Timmy does, how he approaches the game, and how he goes about it. So I think he's a big lift for everyone on defense. Definitely one of our leaders on that side of the ball. And and it's nice knowing you can depend on your free safety.
All right, Coach. Well, congratulations on the win. One last congratulations for last week, and certainly looking forward to the game tomorrow.
Thank you.